Machine learning algorithms are usually designed to improve accuracy by reducing the error. So, accuracy can be a very good metric to measure the performance of many machine learning algorithms, and it's certainly a good metric in that it is the easiest metric to understand. However, it may not work well with classification algorithms because accuracy does not tell you about the underlying distribution of response values, nor does it tell you the type of error the model is making, which is often useful to understand in real world situations. There are many ways to gauge the performance of the classification model, but none have stood the test of time like the confusion matrix. The confusion matrix yields the most ideal suite of metrics for evaluating the performance of classification algorithms such as logistic regression and decision trees. In this video, we are going to learn how to use confusion matrix to evaluate the performance of a classification model. Let's assume we are building a binary classification model to classify patients as either diabetic or non-diabetic, and the model has made predictions with an accuracy of 91%. Let's now take a look at the predictions on a confusion matrix, which I would loosely define as a table that describes the performance of a classification model. You can think of it as a tally of the two types of correct predictions that the classifier can make, as well as a tally of the two types of incorrect predictions it can make. Thus, every observation in the testing set is represented in exactly one box of the confusion matrix. The total number of observations represented in this matrix is 165. The shape or size is 2 by 2 because this is a binary classification problem. So, if there were 5 possible response classes, this would be a 5 by 5 matrix. When a confusion matrix is used for a binary problem, each of these 4 boxes has a specific name that is useful to memorize. The bottom right is called the true positives and indicates that in 100 cases, the classifier correctly predicted that a patient has diabetes. The upper left is called true negatives and indicates that in 50 cases, the classifier correctly predicted that a patient does not have diabetes. The upper right is called false positives and indicates that in 10 cases, the classifier incorrectly predicted that a patient has diabetes when in fact they do not. The bottom left is called false negatives and indicates that in 5 cases, the classifier incorrectly predicted that a patient does not have diabetes when in fact they do have diabetes. If you have any trouble remembering the difference between a false positive and a false negative, just think of false positives as cases in which the classifier falsely predicted positive and false negatives as cases in which it falsely predicted negatives. False positives are known in some fields as type 1 errors and false positives are known in some fields as type 1 errors and false negatives are known as type 2 errors. It is important to note that these 4 numbers are integer counts and not rates. We will talk shortly about some of the rates that can be calculated from a confusion matrix. Confusion matrix is useful in helping you to understand the performance of your classifier. Let's go through a few of the popular metrics and then at the end talk about how to choose which metric to optimize. These are the 6 metrics that can be calculated from confusion matrix. We are going to discuss each of them in detail. Classification accuracy can be calculated from the confusion matrix by adding the true positives and true negatives and divide the sum by the total number of observations. The next metric is a classification error, also known as misclassification rate. It is the sum of all false classification. It is equal to the false positives plus the false negatives divided by the total or 1 minus the accuracy score. The next metric is sensitivity, which answers the question, when the actual value is positive, how often is the prediction correct? In this example, we can say that the sensitivity is slightly low because out of the 105 cases where the patients were diabetic, the model has predicted 5 cases as non-diabetic. Sensitivity is calculated by dividing the true positives by the total of the bottom row, or 100 divided by 105. So the bottom row is all that is relevant for these calculations. Since we are only considering cases in which the actual response values is yes. It is also known by the term true positive rate and also known as recall rate. The next metric is specificity, which answers the question, when the actual value is negative, how often is the prediction correct? Just like sensitivity, specificity is something which you want to maximize. Examining the example, once again we know that the specificity is slightly low because out of 60 cases where the patients are actually negative, in 50 cases the model correctly predicts negative, and in 10 it wrongly predicts as positive. Specificity is calculated by dividing the true negatives by the total of the top row, or 50 divided by 60. This time the top row is all that is relevant. Let's now move on to the false positive rate. It answers the questions, when the actual value is negative, how often is the prediction correct? Just like specificity, only the top row of the confusion matrix is relevant to this calculation, except this time it's the false positives divided by the total of the top row. The last metric is precision. It answers the question, when a positive value is predicted, how often is the prediction correct? This is our first metric, in which the denominator is a column instead of a row and is calculated by dividing true positives by the total of the right column, or 100 divided by 110. You can think of precision as describing how precise the classifier is when predicting a positive instance. I want to advise you that you should always examine the confusion matrix for your classifier, since it gives you a more complete picture of how your classifier is performing. It also allows you to compute various classification metrics which can guide your model. It also allows you to compute various classification metrics which can guide your model selection process. However, you can't optimize your model for every one of these metrics. The choice of metric ultimately depends on your business objective, and the easiest way for me to explain this is through two examples. In the first example, we are building a spam filter in which an observation represents an email and the positive class is spam. In this case, most people would say that false negatives in which spam goes to the inbox are more acceptable than false positives in which non-spam is caught by the spam filter. Thus, our priority is to minimize false positives, and so we might choose to optimize our model for precision or specificity. Our second example is a fraudulent transaction detector for a website in which an observation represents a transaction and the positive class is a fraud. In this case, the website owner might judge that false positives in which normal transactions are flagged as possible fraud are more acceptable than false negatives in which fraudulent transactions are missed. Since the former can often be resolved without losing a sale, while the latter likely results in the loss of money. Thus, our priority is to minimize false negatives, and so we might choose to optimize our model for sensitivity. I hope this has given you a useful framework for thinking about your own machine learning problem. In the next video, we will learn how to optimize the logistic regression model for a particular metric. In the next video, we will learn how to optimize the logistic regression model. In the next video, we will learn how to optimize the logistic regression model for a particular metric by adjusting the classification threshold.